Hi everyone, this is the first part of the screencast series about new version of workflow service for OpenStack, the project codenamed Mistral. The current Mistral version is 0.1, and since the last version that was released about 4 months ago, the project has been completely redesigned in order to introduce some new exciting features and actually improve overall user experience. The screencast does not contain any theoretical information about workflows and workflow services. Instead, it fully concentrates on using Mistral Command Line Interface to create and manage Mistral workflows, and also explains how to write Mistral workflows themselves, using new Mistral domain-specific language. Let's now go straight to the demonstration. And first of all, we of course need to run our Mistral server. Let's use some special launch script for that. And okay, server started. And now I'm ready to show you some basics of Mistral command line interface. First of all, we can type Mistral-H and get a full list of available Mistral commands. We can see that all the commands are organized into multiple groups, prefixed with different words. And let's quickly go over all of the groups to get some high-level understanding of what Mistral can do. The most important group is prefixed with workflow. It is needed to manage Mistral workflows. For example, if I want to create and upload a new workflow, I can use workflow create command. Or if I want to get a full list of available workflows, I can use workflow list command. We also have a group of commands for manipulating custom actions, for cron triggers, which are needed to run workflows on a periodic basis, for workflow executions. For example, if I want to create a workflow execution, basically to start a workflow, I need to use execution create command. And we have a group of tasks for tracking workflow tasks. For example, if I want to get the full list of tasks ever been executed by Mistral, I need to use task list command. One more special group of commands that we have is prefixed with workbook. It can be used to manage Mistral workbooks. As we will see later in this screencast, workbook is just a convenience container for workflows and actions. And unlike previous versions of Mistral, workbooks don't have to be used every time we want to create and run a workflow. If I want to get more detailed information about using some specific command, I can use Mistral help and command name. For example, let's see what we have for workflow create. And here is basically the information how this command can be used. Let's try to use some commands. For example, let's take a look at the full list of currently available actions. Let's type Mistral action list for that. Okay, and here is the huge list of available actions. Let's try to find where this table starts. Okay, and the most interesting information here is action name, action input parameters, and action description. And as you can see here, input parameter list and action description can be a little bit shrinked just to fit table size for better presentation. But for example, if we want to get more detailed information about glance images data action, we can perform the following command: Mistral action get and specify action name. And here we can get the full information about this action. All of these actions, of course, can be used when we are building workflows. And please also know that most of the actions in this table are related with well-known OpenStack services like Nova, Glance, Heat, Neutron, and Keystone. And let's also see if we have any uploaded Mistral workflows. Let's type Mistral workflow list. Oh, actually we have 2 workflows, and they actually come with Mistral out of the box, and anyone can use them to create a virtual instance and delete a virtual instance. Later on, we're going to have more standard workflows like this. And these are actually workflows because, for example, creating an instance is not a really trivial process. So, for example, we can see how the full workflow definition for create instance look like. Okay, let's type Mistral workflow get definition command and specify the workflow name. Okay, here we go. This is the full definition of this workflow. And it actually consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tasks. Okay. So let's now create a very simple workflow, upload it to Mistral, and run it using Mistral service. The workflow will be just getting the list of Keystone projects and taking the first one. So the output of the workflow is going to be just the first Keystone project. In order to save some time, I have already created an empty file for our workflow definition, which is called getFirstKeystoneProject.yaml. And now it is empty. So let's now open up Sublime editor and write our workflow definition. Okay, standard YAML marker first, and then goes the version of the Mistral domain specific language, which is 2.0 at this point. And now we need to specify the name of the workflow. Get first Keystone project, okay. And the workflow type, which is going to be direct. Please see more information about workflow types and other details of Mistral domain specific language version 2 in the next parts of this screencast series. And now we're going to describe the output of this workflow. Type in the section output. And this is going to be just a simple structure containing the information about the project ID and its name. Okay, project, ID, name, and for now I will just leave them empty and we will figure out how to fill them a little bit later. So let's go to describing the workflow tasks. This workflow basically just needs one task, and let's call it get project. And the task is going to be associated with action Keystone projects list. This action basically just returns the full list of the projects registered in Keystone. And what I'm going to do here, I'll take the first element out of this list and publish its properties ID and name into a workflow context. Let's use publish keyword for this. Project ID and project name. And let's take advantage of Yakel expression language. We will take the first element and its property ID, and similar for name. And that's basically it. The last thing that we need to do is we need to fill those properties in the output section that we left blank. I'm going to just reference two variables in our workflow context. And that's it. The next step is to upload this workflow definition into Mistral and actually run it. Let me switch to my console. Okay, let's do cat command again, and we see it's not empty anymore. Okay. In order to upload the workflow, I'm going to use command workflow create. And all I need to do here is just to specify my YAML file as an argument. Okay, there we go. And we see that we actually uploaded our workflow. Okay. Just to make sure everything is fine, let's take a look at its definition again from the command line. Mistral workflow get definition and the workflow name. Okay, here's the full definition. And let's finally run the workflow. I'm gonna use the command execution create. And again, I just need to specify my workflow name. In common case, actually, I need to specify also input parameters here, but this is just a simple workflow without any parameters. So let's just go ahead and run the workflow. Okay, we see that our workflow execution in state running. And this is the identifier of the workflow execution. So let's get some information about workflow execution. And let's specify our identifier. Okay, now I see that my workflow execution in success, so it's supposed to finish. And here is some login from the server side. And let's take a look at the output of the execution. And again, I'm going to specify my ID. Okay, here is the data from our workflow we just described in our workflow definition. We see a simple JSON structure with the single key project and project ID and name right here. I hope you enjoyed this video and will enjoy the next parts of the screencast series about Mistral 0.1 capabilities.